Okay, let's start building the actual game now. So let's start by giving it a product name. If you don't know what you're going to call your game yet, it's fine just to put in a placeholder name, Project 001 or something like that. I'm going to call this game High Noon, and I'm going to select 2D. We're not going to load any asset packages for this one. While there would be some packages that would be helpful to get started in a game like this, because we're going to be working on a platformer game, there wouldn't be much to learn in that. So instead we're going to create all the code and assets ourselves. Through doing that, you'll learn a lot about how to create a game from scratch, and also you'll be able to fine-tune the controls to be exactly how you want them, instead of picking an already made script and not knowing how to use it. Okay, so once you've selected 2D, select Create Project. Okay, and our default project has been created. Let's start by bringing in the resources that you prepared in the previous videos. So I'm just going to drag in my resources folder into the assets area and wait for those to be imported. Okay, and I'm just going to rename this resources folder now by selecting it and clicking enter, or if you're on Windows, right clicking and going to rename. And I'm going to call this artwork. Let's make a few more folders now as well. You can do that by coming up to Assets, Create, and Folder. And we'll call this folder Materials. The materials is where we're going to put our artwork after it is being prepared as a material. Let's create another folder by going to Assets, Create, Folder, and call this one Prefabs. Now if you just did what I did there, where the folder was added under another folder, just drag it up underneath Assets and they'll bring it back to the top level. And make sure that all your folders are going to be at the top level here. Okay, so Assets, Create, Folder. This one is going to be called Scenes. Assets, Create, Folder. This one will be called Scripts. Once again, Assets, Create, Folder, and this one is going to be for our animations. Okay, so when we created this new project, it's also created a new scene. And that's the area you can see here. It is a default scene and all that is in it is this camera. So we have a main camera looking down on the scene. And you can see the bounds of the camera marked here as well. Now the first scene we're going to actually be creating is a staging area. The purpose of a staging area is it is a place where you can create the prefabs that you're going to use in the actual levels of your games, or any other resources that you want to test out or experiment with. So your staging scene is not going to be used in the actual game, it's just for preparing all these resources. You've already seen how useful the prefabs are. So think of it as a way of keeping your actual scenes rather clean and simple and to the point, whereas for the most part you can just drag on the objects that you need and place them where you want them to be, rather than spending a lot of time rebuilding things in your main level scene. So okay, the scene has been created, but it hasn't actually been saved anywhere yet. So if we go up to File, Save Scene, we now have an option of how to name it. So let's call this one Game Staging. And select Save. Now we just want to drag that under the Scenes folder. So when you come to Scenes, you now have your Game Staging scene. In the next video, you'll start building the prefabs that you're going to use inside your game.